Okay. Yeah, let's check out the new version of the FPV Kamikaze drone game on Steam, which I guess is so far the most authentic basically. Yeah. I mean, sure, you have some effects like weight. You have to experience with a real drone because a bit different when you then have a RPG warhead or whatever, explosives, OG, whatever, strapped below you. But other than that, the most authentic one. As far as I know, at least, I think on Reddit some Ukrainians claimed, and yeah, I also know from a documentary that they definitely use video games for training of FPV or of general drone operators. Takes only a couple of hours. I could drive around a FPV drone with on my own with ballast, but without explosives. It's just easy. You can get on a acceptable skill level in hours. Good, and they added new missions, so first I start out with the basic stuff. I think the first was always this APC mission. Perhaps I will explain a bit. Perhaps then let's rename the video. I will mention some stuff. There's so much misinformation and everything these days. It annoys me because I'm such a big fan of truth. But I also simply need to realize truth is outdated, man. Nobody cares for the truth anymore. This is something I simply need to realize. I don't know, it's to me really hard. That nowadays nobody really cares for the truth. If it is not fitting the narrative or whatever. Yeah, why not? I think that is a good video. This is so much. To see it countless times on Reddit. I also use a Mavic drone, pretty good, man. Those things are almost self-driving. Even, I mean, they often engage those safety switches. But for observation drones, you don't need acrobatics mode. They are not. They're used for drone bombing and observation. So yeah, okay, let's return to the game. Let me first set it up. So yeah, drone warfare has become a big thing. It's also what the mainstream media was making fun out of the Russians for using those cope cages on top of the tanks. It was not really to protect against against tandem javelin warheads. Yeah. Perhaps. I mean, if I would be a tanker, I would also put shit on my tank and just pray. But because there was before this war in Azerbaijan, yeah, which was that was the first war that showed basically what will come. That which was won by drones, not by those cheap commercial drones, but by those cheap military loitering ammunition drones, yeah. Which usually those Turkish and whatever, which locate a target, lock on it, yeah, and then they launch into your tank. Usually with a top-down attack. That's why they built those cages on top, because they found out that the Ukrainians had acquired Turkish drones. Yeah, the Baktayar TB2 is also a Turkish drone. It's not not this type of drone I'm talking about. And yeah, everybody made fun out of them. for using those cope cages, yeah. That's how they called them. Suddenly everybody started to use them. And later they made fun out of them for even up-caging those and creating those crazy Mad Max designs. Now everybody's doing that. Because even those modern tanks break down to a couple of $100 shitty drone attacks. With even a regular RPG-7V warhead that is the cheapest and most available warhead for the RPG-7. 7V. Single, not tandem. But they also have tandem rounds. Also, you often hear veterans yapping about RPG-7 can this and that. RPG-7 is not a single weapon system. There's RPG-7s. The 7V, that is your classic Rambo warhead. But there's also improved ones, yeah, and I think VEs and also the tandem one is a very big, very low range because it is so huge. But can break even modern tanks. Yeah. If you remove the booster stage and slap it to a drone, and you do a top-down attack, even with the worst warhead, you can blow up even the modern tanks. Yeah, Russian tanks, yeah, they blow all up, but they also cost 1/20th of Western tanks. As you see, game changer, not really. Yeah. There was watch a documentary about Ukrainian tankers using Western tanks. They're very happy with the Leopard 2. Challenger, not that much because it's very heavy. Abrams also a bit problematic, but still they say after a couple of drones they end up mission or mobility killed. There's always a danger that a single drone already mobility kills you, which is very dangerous in this war, as the drone swarm follow-up drones will come on top of you. So let's play the first mission with the settings. However, then after some time, of course, there was commercial drones became more and more important. Now, even now, vital. Commercial drones like the Mavic, it's a very popular Chinese drone. You can get it for the non-thermal version. I guess if they mass buy it, you cannot get it for one grand. Yeah, it's nothing compared to military drones that cost often 100k plus or millions even. And it's crazy. A Chinese company is supplying both. The Ukrainians buying Mavics and mass, Russians buying Mavics and mass, but they have now ramped both up their own production. Ukrainians started first, but Russians now catched up. Some might even say Russians are even out-droning now. So yeah, that is your typical FPV one used drone. They have limited range, up to, depending on if they run on battery and signals, up to, I would say 10 clicks, 10 kilometers, depending on signal, battery life. They often strap multi battery packs to it, plus explosive, and yeah, those drones are max spec'd to carry also this weight. So you can't compare them to those little FPV racers which can't carry shit. Those drones are spec'd to carry max weight and battery life. They often have, you can often identify them with a crappy camera, which they also do in order to save battery life. If you see a better quality, is often the fiber optics version, which simply has better image quality. And if you see very good quality, it's usually a observation drone like a Mavic. That is the bigger drones, which are either used for observation or for bombers. Those are cheaply produced, especially domestic, for a couple of $100. Was never so cheap to kill a soldier. I once talked about this. There was those calculations, how much money do you need to invest, rounds and everything, in order to kill an enemy combatant. I remember in Afghanistan, it was something like $100,000 per enemy combatant. Yeah? Nowadays, there's on both sides drone units that say basically the cost to kill or to maim a single combatant is about max $1,000. Yeah, averaging out. Hey, you disappeared so quickly last. Yeah, I had a phone call. It took a bit longer. I had to pause, and I was already tired. But Mafia is installed. I might play it later. Casual man, I become a casualty of war. Yeah. Yeah, World War II also, they had to fire a ton of artillery rounds and spend I don't know what. I think drones are probably the cheapest method of killing humans ever available. Yeah, also back in the days, yeah, swords or spears were not expensive. Just because you buy a spear doesn't mean that you still need to employ armies or employ that spear in a big unit. Now you simply need some dude sitting somewhere behind enemy lines. You need a transmitter. They usually operate on regular RC, analog signal. Have some repeaters. That is usually the limitation of those drones is signal, not battery, signal first. But they are one use. If they send out with ordnance, they are not recovered. What they sometimes do is park those drones on the ground. Basically, like a hunting animal waiting for prey. This is especially for those road hunters who hunt down supply vehicles and everything. They simply put that drone on the ground, which is dangerous sometimes because you might lose signal close to the ground. But if it's working, you can save battery and wait for your prey without the need of, because vehicles are simply, they're moving fast. For observation drone reports a vehicle until you're, when a hunter reports a vehicle, hunter killer system, and you come with a killer, perhaps the vehicle is already gone. That's why they often use those drones basically and because they're so cheap, you can basically simply waste them even, nobody cares. Simply a cheap explosive strapped below a tank with those contact wires. The pilot is super cheap to train. The most expensive and most extensive trained dude in a drone team is the ordnance specialist. Usually in a drone team you have a team leader, which often is also watching your FPV feed while you are in first person. And he's often also watching either own observation drone, or he has a feed of a unit that is operating that observation drone. Once you have spotted something, you send out those dudes, in order to kill people, kill wounded and whatever. And exactly, team leader, drone pilot. Drone pilot is super cheap to train, man. You can take some 20-year-old Redditor and train in a couple of hours to operate those shitty drones and kill people, I mean, they of course receive basic training before, so they still need to operate in a war zone, but the ordnance specialist, the dude that is handling those and arming the explosives, is probably the most extensive trained dude beside the team leader. If that guy mishandles something, he might blow up the entire team. He's the only guy allowed to arm the explosives. And then you have a supply soldier who might recover observation drones or whatever, and but here this shit, they sometimes also fill it up, requires of course special training. You can't simply get some amateur handling explosives, man. You might blow up. Yeah, this stuff here needs to be armed. And once it is armed, you will never recover it. Never. You never recover a live drone. For drone bombers, you expand your ordnance, then you can recover them. Those drones blow up, and that's it. Because they're so cheap, nobody cares. That is a striker drone, that is a, what is it, a Mavic? Yeah. Which you can strap usually grenades below, Up to, there's also bigger drones, domestic designs, man. They can carry 4, 5, 6 grenades. They also maximize the lethality of those grenades. You can simply tell it by early footage and by later footage, people dropping even in the distance. And this is also usually the observation drone, the Mavics. But you also have, of course, domestic designs, the Baba Yaga and whatever, which have simply a bigger airborne time. They are maxed out, max-spec'd out with battery and signal. Operate in high altitudes with high quality cameras. They are your hunter. Those here shitty, cheap killer drones, they are your killer. Those observation drones, they observe That's also why attacks are so brutal to pull off. You hear some retard Western expert talking about human wave attacks. Dude knows nothing. Immediately stopped watching the video. There's nothing to do there with that. It's impossible to pull off any combined arms effort in such a drone environment. Those drones are so cheap compared to the equipment you operate there on the ground. They will immediately observe you once you start to maneuver, and once they observed you, they will immediately start a drone fleet coming towards you. That's while you see this tactic of deploying small unit sizes, often only 2-3 dudes, or one platoon, those typical attack of a couple of vehicles. What you see is a fail. They deploy several of those platoons. They roll them to the front line. Some of those dudes getting observed, and they send a ton of drones after them. What you see in that footage is how those guys then simply get decimated. Simply while other units might make it through and then infiltrate in small units enemy territory and try to quickly claim it and get their butts somewhere underground or into buildings in order to avoid then counter drone operations. So what you always see in those videos is a fail. If those dudes get observed, then but it's of course for the drone force very more difficult to respond to those piecemeal attacks, to all those small attacks happening on a bigger front, then respond to a one big attack. Doesn't matter if it is combined arms, whatever, it's nonsense. If you hear people, are they sending units out without support? No, they simply clueless. There is no support against drones. There's no effective counter so far against drones. Sure, jamming and whatever, it might work, might not work, you can pray for it. It also doesn't work against fiber optic drones, which have usually a big ass. You can also put them even on smaller Tonys. They have a drum with fiber cable. I can show you how that fiber cable looks, because there's this good example of how retards buy into propaganda. What is it? The Lancaster, right? The Lancaster drone. Such a fucking disgrace, man, I swear. But that is stupid people exist and want to buy shit. That guy made a video. He's a known faker. He made a video how he's getting attacked by a drone. I watched it and already realized that it's a fake. So many points, but I'll show you off how the fiber optics look. I mean, you can already tell by the thumbnail. So fiber optics cable look like that, yeah. Yeah, that is a fiber optics cable. Yeah, see that white line here? That is a fiber optics cable. Now you're perhaps asking, why is it coming from the vehicle towards the enemy drone they're engaging? Yeah, go figure, connect the dots. They're of course faking that footage here. Here, perfect look at the fiber cable. Coming from somebody inside that technical is controlling a drone which those dudes engage in order to make it look like they're engaging an enemy drone for propaganda and giving those guys 1.9 million clicks. And I don't know if he's monetized. It would be a shame if people like that are monetized. But I have this ad insult. 90% upvoted that video, as stupid people will believe. Yeah? Here you see the fiber optics cable. They're engaging a drone, which you don't see now. It is a dildo drone. Here, it's a fake video. Yeah? And somebody inside that, here, you see that is they didn't even care to get that out of the footage. A good video editor could have edited that out. But for the stupidity people nowadays, they don't even need that, because they will simply buy and suck dicks. They go to fishing. Yeah, true. Perhaps it was true. It was perhaps a fishing lane, or what you call it, by accident. But it's sort of fiber. It's very thin. It's transmitting light, and you kind of transmit with light information. and somebody is controlling a fiber optics drone from inside the car at the rear of the vehicle, so those dudes can play Hollywood, so stupid people can click on that video and make them money or whatever. That is a fiber optics drone, and you can really get a lot on that drum. Up to 10 clicks you can roll on the drum, yeah. You need to watch out, of course, but it's crazy. Those spider web space, like a spider web, but way more resilient. Yeah. That is now becoming the newest stuff, yeah, because it is more is resistant against jamming or signal loss. You don't need to repeaters. Repeaters you can also put on a drone. There's also drones that are basically like a WLAN router, or WLAN repeaters. You can also put repeaters on a drone or an observation drone. Observation drone often carry repeaters. So other drones, but it's difficult between units. If you are not from the same unit, it's sometimes a bit complicated. So yeah. But that was a big problem. Those fiber optic drones were first introduced by the Russians. Gave the Ukrainians a big problem because they expanded the range. So the one forces could hit the others, while the others couldn't hit the, you get the idea. And this software supposedly is used for training, which absolutely makes sense. So Ukrainian forces using modified or PlayStation 1s with modified, I don't know what, hacked games or whatever to train drone pilots. I mean, sure, you then do a dry flight on a real drone to get used to it, but I tell you, I've flown them myself. It's cheap shit, man. It doesn't take much. And yeah, Ukrainians claimed this is used for Russian training. Could be, absolutely makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, why not? If I would be now operating an African militia, I would buy that game, yeah. Train my Tonys, man. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's super easy. I mean, those drones, they're stabilized. It's not like you need something, yeah. Even in acrobatics mode, they're super stabilized.
Alright fighters, it's about to start.
Oh. So that is usually an observation drone altitude. That might be a Mavic. Often equipped with thermal. Thermal Mavic is also not cheap, goes for 2 or 3 grand. Which in military terms is a joke price. We already have located the vehicle, and you see it is almost... If you have every front line or front aspect covered by such drones, it is almost impossible to maneuver without being observed. It is impossible. And that's why they use those small units, max platoon size, drive them into the enemy positions. 50% might die. 50% survive, infiltrate, and try to bury in. Entrench. It's the only thing that works. The Ukrainians tried all those fancy NATO tactics, which our clueless, Cold War mind-stuck super NATO officers trained them. Yeah, worked out not a single day. It's absolute nonsense bullshit there. Let me figure that out. But it's a bit strange. It's made for a controller. But yeah, if you can play a janky PC game, and if you have 2 hands, you can become a drone operator. It's not comparable to a pilot or something. It's completely bollocks. And even pull off those 180s or whatever they do, getting over a drive car, putting a 180 and driving into the windshield or into the driver's seats of running vehicles to get both a mobility kill and a driver injury. That's why you should GTFO out of the car when you see a drone, because you will not outrun it. Often then the drone operator rather goes for the car first. And you might be then stranded and need then the GTFO out of there, because follow-up drones are already there to kill you. They are already on the way. Even if you're wounded, they're coming for you in order to finish you. That's the new laws of war. It's a new kids on the block shit now, huh? That's how it works these days. And you will end up in some shitty pop music video with smileys or whatever. Some drone operator wanking to your mortal wounds while zooming in. Okay. Different, there's very different loadouts. You can load suicide drones, for example, with a booster stripped RPG. A booster strip means the rear of the RPG is not there. It's screwed out or removed. Because you don't need the booster stage in order to save weight. Or the OG7, that is a smaller fragmentation RPG. But they also now design everything for whatever you need. For example, road drones, they might carry rather heat charges in order to fight armored vehicles. If you know you're hitting a infantry position, you might go for stuff like napalm, high explosive, fragmentation, especially fragmentation. They also have basically stuff like, what do you call it, leg crushers. They're already perfected. Yeah, you know, human beings are in nothing so perfect like killing others. They already perfected the spread of the fragmentations, so they will hit the lower limbs or the lower parts of soldiers in order to immobilize them, so they can then get killed and finished off by other drones. That's why you see so many battlefield suicides. Those dudes already know what will happen to them. If they end up in a failed platoon attack and end up somewhere in Ukraine, often a lot of the landscape of Ukraine has very little cover. There's only a couple of tree lines, nothing else. But you can use everything. There's napalm. There's even now people strapping weapons to drones, but it's still in the early stage. Even RPG, they're strapping RPGs to the drone, but which you can launch. So you have basically a launcher on the drone. But it's all early stage, but will of course one day become viable. But there's everything, all stuff. From regular grenades in coffee cups, which that was the early stage. You put a grenade into a plastic cup. I mean, there's also a known tactic for booby traps. You put a grenade into a plastic those plastic cups, strap it to something, remove the security pin, and once the dude trips the wire, the grenade is extracted from the coffee cup and goes live. And if you throw it from a drone, you shoot a coffee cup. But what you now see that the grenade is already armed when it drops. So they can already arm it while dropping in order to reduce the reaction time of soldiers. So that it immediately explodes when it hits the ground. And they are trained to what height they need to operate so that those grenades basically almost detonate and fragment when hitting the ground. Of course, also you can go airburst, but with smaller charges it's very difficult to see then the coverage. But early you saw those coffee cup Tonys, often the grenade dropped and some lucky Tony perhaps could escape because he realized what is going on, because he heard the noise or whatever. Also the Russian F1 grenades, they make a loud pop noise. One of the most widely used grenades is the Russian F1. If that thing, if the handle pops off that grenade, it's very loud. Like tsh. Some dudes that are not completely stupid, they know what is going on then. And immediately start to run. But here you can also see, for example, that dude has now a self-made explosive. They're making explosives often filled with whatever, steel balls. Fuse. You have an explosive, and then a lot of either you maximize the explosive, you could also put in flammable napalm or whatever, stuff like that sticks to the body or sticks to positions, sucks out the air out of positions, especially if you're in a bunker or something, and you detonate shit like that, you might literally suck out the air there. You need to get out and then you get bombed. Or you might simply not get out. Or you put a lot of fragmentation and into those. And if you design them properly, I mean, that is not a dropper, that is a impact. And then US soldiers were more nervous when the NVA Viet Cong tossed up US-made grenades at the Chinese one, as the Chinese ones were often dots and did less damage. Or could be, I don't know. I mean, there's offensive grenades, defensive grenades. Yeah, there's a big difference between grenades. For example, also the German Stielhand was rather a small charge compared to the... Yeah, but there's the fragmentation. Yeah, fragmentation is usually a defensive grenade. Because fragmentation can be dangerous in offensive operations. But there's also offensive and defensive fragmentation grenades. There's very big differences between grenade sizes, and sometimes you can also equip grenades with, for example, a fragmentation mantle or remove it. For example, a Stielhand didn't have big explosive, it was rather a suppressive grenade, yeah. And it didn't have much fragmentation for a purpose, because they realized this might endanger friendly forces. That's why they often call it defense. You're sitting basically in a defensive position, then you can use more dangerous shit for the surrounding, because you don't expect your own dudes running around in the open, yeah. While offensive grenades, if you run around, while attacking with some huge grenade, and there's, I don't know, the platoon is spread and you're throwing a grenade, yeah, that might of course hit own forces, which might less likely be in cover or entrenched there. But it's mixed up. I mean, the F1 is, I think, an offensive grenade, yeah, it's a rather smaller charge, that's true. But they do a lot of handmade stuff. There's here this. That is the 7V PG VS. It's not the regular, that is a bigger one. That thing that is bigger than Heat. I don't know. Perhaps even Tandem. Looks quite huge. I think that is not a single Heat, that is a dual stage. Might probably break any tank out there if you simply hit the top. Max stories of how they could not train the locals to throw grenades more than a few yards. Yeah, I mean, do you know the funny German army training video where some dude is throwing grenades in the woods, which is very dangerous? Grenade usage in the woods is very dangerous. And you are usually trained to do this, what you call it, egg throw. You're not supposed to throw it you're basically supposed to throw it in this big half circle, which makes it harder to, yeah, exactly, and then it immediately bounces off from a tree in his own position, and dude watches the ground. Luckily it was only a train grenade, but shows you, if that would be a defensive grenade, man, you might blow up the entire trenches. Yeah. It is a huge charge. I think that is a Tandem 7VS. That is definitely an improved one. P, I don't know exactly for OG is the fragmentation anti-personal one. I think that is then probably the anti-armor. But that looks Tandem. Will probably break any tank, Leopards, everything. If it hits top. Even if it hits rear or whatever. Tandem charges are very dangerous. It's basically a dual stage Heat. It's also designed to defeat countermeasures like here, reactive explosive. That is an OG7, that is... Oh man, those dudes are huge. They're a bit huge, I don't know, I've not seen that many drones that operate such huge... Man, OG, that is... Ah yeah, that is the thermobaric, I think. That is the thermobaric one. I don't know if they use copper. I mean, they create a plasma jet, but out of what material, I don't know. There's those dual, which create basically two. One to overcome superficial armor or countermeasures, like, and the second one which then penetrates even deeper, or the main armor or whatever. What material they use, I don't know. I'm not that much of an expert in that regard. That is the thermobaric one, but never seen Jimmy's flying such huge Tonys. Holy shit, man. Ah, that is the thermobaric, okay. Ah, crazy, man. I don't know. I mean, you can really turn out, you can really get a lot of performance out of those mini drones. Yeah, you can't compare your shitty commercial drone with that always. But I've not seen that many drones that operate such huge. I've seen Tonys that operate such big Tonys. But man, big shit here. That is a striker drone. That is your drone bomber. That is usually a Mavic drone or something bigger. And below you strap grenades. Classic, yeah, Vox, exactly. Or RGD-5, I think that is a defensive grenade. It's a bigger Tony. There's even, yeah. There's, I think, even a anti-personal mine or something, which usually you deploy with a wire. I usually carry them like a fighter, but often also on a carousel. 2, yeah, minimum. Many of them can use even more. And they also can maximize those. They used copper, probably an alloy or smithing, really expensive nowadays. Whatever they do is this shit is usually super cheap. But that only is really huge, man. Yeah, exactly. Thermobarics is perfect for clearing compounds or positions. Because it is really literally burning up the air. And everything. Exactly. And there's a smaller charge, the OG one. But it's very small. And they can really churn out a lot of weight of those drones. They're definitely improved. Even of those little safe-made. They make those Tonys in masses. Those Tonys are so produced in mass that you can even stack them together. Like they are usually delivered in huge stacks. Yeah. You need to look there, man. There's a rooms full of those drones. And every of those drones might kill, seriously maim a person. Mass produced for a couple of $100 max. Even plus the ordnance. But let's deploy that Tony. Let's see where's the vehicle. Is that Tony? Okay, let's go for the striker first. Oh. You saw what I did there, this final, what you often see drone operators doing is this final circling of death. With this you stabilize the drone. What drone operators also often do is dive bomber approach in order to counter signal loss and jamming. Because if you have that drone on the course, high speed, and whatever, there is some tools that might manage you to jam the drone or to interfere with your input. Or if you lose the signal close to the ground, that's what you often see, the feed fades out because they lose signal close to the ground. And they also lose input control. With this drone, with this dive bomber approach, you minimize the chance of losing control and or getting jammed. And this final circling is simply to stabilize. Basically stabilizing it. That's what you often see, they're circling that drone quickly in. What is that? What is that in the distances? Yeah, there's somebody's firing. There's a vehicle firing. Or BTR or something, we might go for it next. But let's go for it next. Yeah, this game is not super realistic. It's simply some vehicle plays with infinite ammunition or whatever. Yeah, speed it. Oh shit, I can't pause. Very realistic, very authentic, good simulation. Yeah? You saw the signal loss? That was because I was so close to the ground, yeah? And what we're doing is, what those drones often operate in is the acrobatics mode. Acrobatics mode is, you basically need to, they usually have a controller, yeah, of some sort. Drone controller, which it's not specific for the drone, they can basically link it to it. And if you give power, the drone moves up. Yeah. If you stop, the drone simply drops to the ground. So you need to give constant input. That's what this acrobatics mode is. It is made for high maneuver, while drone bombers or Mavic observation drones often operate rather in an automated, stabilized mode. Yeah, like that drone. I don't need to input everything. I have used those Mavic drones even without assists. They're basically self-flying. Evasive maneuvers, simply max control. Yeah, you can. There's nothing impeding you. Acrobatics mode doesn't have any limitations to angle or whatever. It is made for those drone racers, which is of course perfect. Which basically don't want to have any limitations, like an observation drone. Watch out, your angle is too high. Yeah, you might crash the drone. I mean, those drones are expensive, so you have in those commercial drones limitations or assists, so you don't crash those drones. Yeah? You don't want to kill your up to regular drones. I would say 120 kmh. Yeah, they can do 120, which is why it's so difficult to outperform them if you are not on a highway. Plus, they can also go faster, but I would say something like that, 120 to 150. That's why you can't outrun them. At least not on those military roads. With those military vehicles, you can't outrun them. Even if you have those technicals, what they use, they use very many of those civilian vehicles. Because they simply are so short on vehicles, because everything gets drone killed. But also in order to have something faster. Because they realized slow military, because most military vehicles or armored vehicles are too slow, they get drawn to death. That's why they use those pickups, at least with those you can push. But even on those regular roads, achieving 120 average is very difficult. On a shitty road, you will kill yourself. Yeah, satellite tracking. I mean, they use definitely that's the technology here. What is it called? From here, not Steve Jobs, that other dude here, that richest man. I forgot his name. Here, Tesla, Tony. Yeah, sure, that is of course also used, but not in this tactical sense. You don't need it. You have observation drone. I'm currently sitting in a Mavic. Yeah. Perhaps it is even the same unit. You have that drone here, high resolution camera, and usually also thermos. Yeah. If you pay 2 or 3 more or 2 more grand, which is for military nothing. I tell you, back in the days, Predator drones are 20 million. Yeah? Even cheapest military drones, 100, 200k. Now they operate drones like this with perfect HD cameras and thermos for a couple of k. Man, even a fucking trash bin in the military costs more than a fucking couple of k. Oh. So you simply need observation. But you're right. I mean, those drones, in Mavics, also Mavics including have, can use networks and give you coordinates. That is important for artillery. And you can even fire shitty World War II artillery almost on spot with the system. If my Mavic drone here, you can pinpoint the location, you get the coordinates. Then somebody no matter if you have even 1940 artillery, that's why they are so eager to get any artillery ammunition. They don't care if it is future, modern or whatever. They even are happy for shitty World War II guns. That's also why the Russians even pulled out their T-55s. Not because they want to use those tanks, they want the guns. And then you can, with coordinates, you do the simple math and you almost fire on spot. That's those times when we hear 10 minutes here, not fire for effect, what do you call it here, zeroing in, it's over. Yep. Yeah, 150 millimeters would be brutal. But you have the coordinates, and that dude that is operating the artillery also has his PC or his notebook or his tablet, and they do the simple math and can almost fire immediately fire for effect. Sure, there's perhaps some zeroing needed in. You have your observation drone. Let's say I call artillery in on that dude there. You see the round impacting there, and then you say adjust 20 meters right, and they fire for effect. Back in the days, man, you first say, oh, they here shit need to figure it out. Starlink, exactly, Starlink. That's why the Ukrainians also were so hot on that Starlink, because it is cable independent or signal independent as you can get it from the satellites. Good. Let's see what is on next side. And you see. The drone controls, I tell you, they are very similar to the real drone controls. Those drones are very stabilized. They run internal, they are basically fly-by-wire. And you see me, I didn't train even, I'm already pulling off killing shots. The real drones are not that much different, even with attached ballast. Yeah? Should they have somewhat behave different? Can train a drone operator in 1 hour. Get some dude, man, in 1 hour he's a drone operator. I mean, he still needs basic military training in order to, as I mentioned, to know how to operate in a... I mean, he's carrying a firearm and everything. But drone operators are good. There's some vehicle here. Let's see, what is that? A BTR 80A. It's a 30 mic cannon. You can hit it all aspect, it will die. Let's deploy a drone. But let's try to hit it from the rear. In the rear turret. You should, yeah, obviously hit the front. Might injure the driver. Wait, where's the gunner sitting in the BTR? Is it? No, he's not sitting in a turret. Below the turret, I guess. Okay, that was bad. Oh, I did a bit here with rotating. It was unnecessary. But also one thing I forgot to mention is, of course, a dive bomber approach also limits the risk of getting intercepted, yeah, by small arms or whatever. Ah, shit, okay. Fucking wall behind him. But imagine you're doing that, yeah, for days. Imagine how proficient you will get with those tools, yeah. I'm playing here for 20 minutes, yeah. Okay, next we have some trucks. Yeah, I mean, RPG round might be a bit... Okay, now I have deployed it. What you often go for is for the driver's seat or for the windshield. Or if you want to kill the whatever they're carrying, sure, you can also go for the... But you usually want to mobility kill the vehicle, which the driver cabin is always good for. The soldiers realize that the drone is here. Then you should speed up and simply impact, yeah? Those small drones are really hard to hit, almost impossible to hit. Those small arms, I mean, if you fly too slow, yeah, it will become still a danger. Body impact. Probably casualty, yeah. Body impacts are usually lethal. What you see, those wires sticking out there, that is basically simply contact wires. If they get touched, the drone explodes. They are designed in that rounded shape, so that even a off-angle impact will detonate them. So, for example, the drone hits you as a soldier in a strange angle and bumps off you, but it will immediately hit something else or the ground and detonate. So we have observation of your foot mobile. If unsure, you first go close for ID. But stay out of small arms range. You realize... I mean, usually the hunter tells you that that is an enemy combatant. Yeah? At a certain height, they might not even hear you. Something like that. Yeah? They might even fail to hear you. And to spot you, because you're so small. You located you, where is he? I see him. And then either, yeah, you can hunt him down like prey, or you go for the dive bomber approach. There's, yeah, in shooters of course counters, but you also need to keep the cost factor in mind. If your weapon costs $200, your countermeasures cost $100,000, you have a problem. Yeah. So far there's only jammers, because most of the non-fiber drones operate simply on an analog signal. You could buy an analog receiver and simply tune in and watch the drone operators doing shit. Can also intercept the signal and take control, or at least malfunction those drones. So simply operate shitty analog, like, you know, like back in the days the TVs, and you could simply tune in, or shitty analog radios where you could tune in into police radio. Yeah, every dude could tune in into police radio. This digital is simply too expensive. You don't need it, because you'd rather go for mass. Yeah, people thinking about different things. I mean, right now they're using rather cheap methods of fighting those drones with specialized ammunition, yeah, like shotguns with specialized shrapnel rounds. And that's it. Yeah, there is not much. Yeah, lasers, okay. Good, yeah, you can deploy the laser on your vehicle, which costs what? Probably 500,000. While that fucking drone you're intercepting is costing $200, yeah? You always need to keep the cost factor in mind. If But if the defensive weapon is costing 100 times of the offensive weapon, it is not really working out. Well, it depends, of course, yeah, but right now there's no effective defense despite jamming. Yeah, small arms fire is not really, yeah, jamming, especially jamming, but jamming analog signals that is working or detecting them, but it's never safe. As I mentioned, they try to minimize the risk, going with the dive bomber approach. Even if your vehicle is carrying a jammer, which might then perhaps impact the drone at a certain range, you're already in the terminal flag. Yeah? You're already going for the kill flag, for the impact. Good. But they do a really good job. Yeah, it's really feeling like the real FPVs. Okay, next was infantry in trenches. Yeah, that's of course a shitty classic. Let's use now a drone bomber. Drone bombers are usually Mavics or something similar, domestic produced.
Operators, get ready.
But there's currently no real effective countermeasures. There's simply who has more drones and more range. That's why you see those crazy offensive tactics. That has nothing to do with human wave attacks or whatever. It's maybe some retards making money off stupid people. Okay, we see trenches. It's also nobody would sit in the open like that. That is basically asking for dying nowadays, close to the front line. Everybody is trying to minimize the sunlight. That is a new thing. Good, there's a soldier here. We can drive closer, right? Yeah. But that thing steers like a Mavic. Stabilized, yeah. Stabilized flight. And then with the other sticks you can control the camera. Totally easy. Can train a monkey to operate those drones in 1 hour. They fly themselves. Okay. Good, let's use a drone bomber. Yeah, drone bombers you usually don't employ in acrobatic modes. That's not what they're made for. But exactly in this Mavic mode. But with that camera turned down, yeah? Well, first front and then down. Exactly, yeah? Okay. At this height, the enemy might not notice. That is exactly, yeah, that's a very good design. That is exactly a height, what is it, I don't know, 100 meters or something, where you might not hear that high-pitched sound of those drones. That's why I often see those videos, if you watch those, which I don't recommend. Because especially those drone bomber videos are the most violent ones. As those drones witness the entire carnage. FPV suicide drone will, once you hit, lose the signal. You don't see what happened. Usually the observation drone then gives you a BDA, Battle Damage Assessment. That's what you see in those shitty videos. Usually you see the FPV drone impacting and then the BDA observation hunter drone, Mavic drone, giving you that impact BDA confirmation. But those dudes here, they watch and they also have the HD cameras. They have the good cameras, not like the shitty FPV cameras. And they also often zoom in into the shit, because I don't know, they're banking off to it, or they think that has some propaganda value. Well, I think it is rather the opposite. But I now realize that change. I guess some of those dudes now figured it out, that nobody really likes you, or you will not scare somebody off, you will simply only disgust people. If you film people dying, or film their mortally wounds. That dude noticed me, okay? Oh shit, yeah, he knows me. And usually you retreat, raise the altitude. Ah, he shot me down? Or was it a battery? I think he shot me down. Can happen, yeah? How do I raise the altitude? I don't know exactly. The drones are really shitty. Yeah, I need to go. Here you see sometimes the ordnance, exactly like in reality. They can even, if you have a moving target, easy strategy, you match the speed with the moving target and then you drop the ordnance. I mean, of course, there's different differences in air friction and everything, but usually it will impact. You see those drone operators, man, they can, even on a moving vehicle, impact center mass. You match the speed and then you drop. And you often the ordnance drops exactly on top. That dude probably knows that I'm here because I'm a bit too low. How do I fire? And what they often use, that's why I often see also this brightness controls popping up. They hack those drones and use the brightness controls for the ordnance deployment. That's why you often see when they drop the grenades, the brightness settings pop up. Because those drones are commercial, yeah, they're not designed to kill people. But they are somewhat hacked. It's easy to hack them. Almost asking for it, yeah. Because they exactly know, man, what happens if those millions of drones go into the Ukraine or Russia. They know exactly who is buying that, yeah, the Mavic dudes. They exactly know who is buying it. Those dudes make a dime out of that. Striker? Yeah, this is Striker. Yeah? He got shot down, I think. Ah, spacebar, okay. Can I raise altitude? Normally you can raise altitude. No? Increase zoom, respawn, roll, pitch. Ah, throttle up. Ah, okay, up, okay. Yeah. That altitude, they shouldn't notice me. If they don't deploy some... Is that a soldier? I think so. Yeah, he's looking for me. He's not sure. Drop. Yeah, backlight, man, perfect. Ah, he noticed, okay. Normally that dude would be probably immobilized. With the modern explosive ordnance they use, that dude would dropped. That was the early stages. The early stage of the war, you really saw that it depends. It is of course bad luck. Ah, backlight, not yeah, brightness. I said brightness. I hit somebody else by accident. Okay. Okay, that drone is empty. But they often deploy up to 6, 7, 8 charges. Usually high altitude is used when attacking ammo dumps or whatever in order not to get hit by the explosives. That usually most soldiers don't notice you. It's of course also a mistake that they don't deploy air guards. In this war you need air guards. But I see so many vehicles even without air guard. And then you zoom in and can immediately do the BDA and enjoy yourself, yeah? I think there's a lot of people in this war who have the luck to engage in this job. Lucky because your die probability shrinks massively. Compared to a frontline pony. You can tell by this game how those dudes develop fun out of that. Hunting down people and killing them. Ah, the drone is empty. No skill required. Just kill people, yeah. And enjoy. Sometimes if you know about the wind conditions, you might adjust. You saw that your first grenade, or if you did a sortie at the beginning of the day, yeah, you might do something like that because you know the wind will carry the grenade to the right. Yeah, super authentic. But that dude would be with, yeah, perhaps with early ordnance, with that ordnance they deploy nowadays, that dude would be drop, and then you would wait, zoom in, witness his misery, and drop another one, and make a shitty pop music video out of that. Yeah, exactly, man. Really good simulation. Yeah, okay, good. The dude was now flying quite hard, but yeah, shit happens. That you sometimes need to press a button. Man, that is, you sometimes need to press a button multiply before the action triggers. Ah, yeah. That's also what you see. They often spam the button, especially for the last grenade. This is a fuck of Modern Warfare now. Retards with zero training killing people for $200. And making shitty videos out of that. Let's see, do we have S? HQ. What is if I go dark? There's also they deploy FPV suicide drones with thermals. One use. Because they are shitty quality, but enough to hunt down people at night. Which is even more horrible. You see nothing, but they see you. Because even that shit is so cheap that you can put in low quality thermals into one use drones.
Squad, combat readiness.
Is the Striker equipped with thermals? I mean Mavics, sure. There's a lot of Strikers running thermals. Let's use that big Tony now. I spawn a bit too close. Yeah, okay, thermals are not working, but normally you have also FPV suicide drones or drone bombers with thermals. I mean, it's not really dark. Yeah, it's not really dark. Let's see if they have wind effects modeled. Sometimes you see the grenade swiveling around in conditions like that. And they can drop up to, as you deploy it here, but it lands. That would be probably lethality, yeah. You heard that sound? Yeah, it's not, I don't know, RGD files, I'm not an expert. But usually the pin is already removed. That's why the explosive ordnance dude needs to be trained so good. Because deploying live ordnance on a drone is quite a challenge. Are you putting live? It could be that they figured out to remove the security pin, drop the grenade, and get the handle off in order to reduce dangers for the operators. Okay. Let's switch back to FPV. Ah yeah, the Mavics are usually deployed with a small screen, or with a screen fed to a laptop. You don't need FPV for them. Those Tonys usually use the FPV method, the first person view. Really a camera. Like a virtual reality headset. Thermobaric. Okay. Sin off. Oh, shit. Oh, that was a bit overspin. Yeah, what you can do with those FPV drones in order to save battery life, of course you need to adapt the wires for that. You can, for example, you hunting down supply vehicles, but you don't. Those Tonys don't have that much battery life. You put it down on the road or close to the road. That's not detonating. Ooh, ooh. Oh, okay, it died. Normally it's possible, yeah. You wait, if you see activity or the observation drone reports activity, you immediately act upon it. So you don't need to send that drone out of your position, which usually is rather in the rear, in order to prevent counter-droning. Because if drone units, usually 4 dudes here, they're so close to the front line, or they might get counter-droned by enemy drone units. Once you see a vehicle, you launch, attack. Yeah? It will save your battery life. Because some of those Tonys don't have that much. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make sense. I mean, normally you have the thermal Tonys also. For those. Sabotage group. Oh, yeah. Rain. Can also operate this drone in almost all conditions. Yeah, in reality, of course, those dudes are not standing around here like that. But for training purposes, sure. Just want to train those Tonys for the basic shit. Everything else you can figure out by killing people, yeah?
to take off like that, you can't react. When you hear the buzzing and everything, it's already too late. Unless I'm basically a crazy max dive bomber. But you can also hunt out those dudes, yeah? What they often do. Because they realize those drones are so hard to hit. That even a little maneuver is already protecting you. For example, here we will now deploy the hunt down method. He's again at the window. Okay, a good shot. Yeah, in cheap FPVs you have a fixed camera. Yeah? That's what you need to incorporate. Normally that would be very wounded. Especially with the newer charges. Airfield, okay. What is the...
Squad, combat readiness.
These sounds?
All right, fighters, it's about to start.
Yeah, getting FPVs close to an airfield, that would make it a bit more challenging. They would rather use, yeah, what you call military-grade drones or self-made, more sophisticated drones with higher endurance to attack high-value targets like airfields. I simply might not get that close to employ those shitty FPVs. And normally, let's do it properly. Let's first identify a target. Sukhoi 25, 2. Look authentic, not made-ups. Often use made-up aircraft or made-up tanks in order to lure drones or cruise missile or ATACMS strikes. Oh, they look authentic. That one is launching, the other one is in the pit. Let's take this one. As the other one might not be ready to launch. Cockpit is always good, but it will do the trick. To the BDA. Ah, okay. Terrible bark, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the Sukhoi is a bit armored, yeah. But that tuning is probably fragmented beyond use. is, for example, if you're in a terminal flight, yeah, you can't intercept them properly anymore. And you sure if you detonate a charge mid-air. We lost the control of that drone, but it's still impacted. Just going a bit crazy now with controls. But normally you of course have a proper clean approach if possible. Those ZSUs would be rather bad against drones, I think. Considering how they operate with cranks usually. It would be too slow, yeah. You need to crank those shits. Mission with driving vehicles? No, that would be good to showcase some of the tactics. How the I mean, we have this here. Yeah, okay. What is that here? Against boats, they often deploy
Operators, get ready.
drone bombers. But you can also, of course, yeah, it doesn't matter. You can also. Let's do the 20 first. Two fatalities, yeah. One fatality, one whatever, unknown, but probably incapable. That boat would definitely go nowhere. Perhaps here we can show those movement tactics. How you adjust your drone to a moving target. Yeah, I need it. Okay. Normally I have a skill set or a profession that will keep me away from the front lines. But it's never bad to have a second. At least I can then claim I'm trained on drones. I don't end up, even in the worst case, on the front lines. So yeah, So shit works, yeah, it's easy. And of course, you might tell you there's a ton of skill involved. No. Good, hitting a target like that is not that easy. Ah, okay, shit. Oh. Yeah, normally I don't. But yeah, sure, of course, train for the hardest case. And they don't have that super effective small arms, especially from a running boat. I would doubt that they would be able to employ that precise fire. Alright, quickly. Yes. Ah, okay, too late. In order to show you this matching speed tactic. You match speed with the target and then you drop. Best on vehicles. Ah, we could use, yeah, I can see. More, no. Should we those road Tonys? No.
Alright, fighters, it's about to start.
Try it on its striker. Oh, that's it for a fast one. Holy shit, that door is fast. Normally there's, on the Mavics you have a bit more speed in that mode. Or you can adjust it. I can't match the speed. I could have dropped the grenade right now in front of him, but if I can't match the speed... That's why you usually don't see drone bombers that often on the vehicles, but they do it and they can also pull off good speed. The battery should be not that empty. As I mentioned, those are Mavics. Yeah, okay, it's super difficult to show that if you can match the speed. And normally, I don't know, in stabilized mode, I think the Mavics are faster than that. But it depends, perhaps there is a commercial mode, but if you disengage the safeties, what they usually do, or hack the safeties, you definitely go faster. And then match speed as of at least regular speed running vehicles. They are not something that tries to outrun you. It's usually drone bombers you see often being deployed against vehicles that disembark or unload or load or embark. So but they chase them. You know, they chase them and they wait. So it's not that easy to hit a moving vehicle, but they do it. But they wait. Especially with those drone bombers, you have way more range, way more battery life. Once they try to get out of the vehicle, you drop. Because a lot of soldiers exposing themselves and they want to unload shit off the vehicle. Then you drop the grenade and haywire. People go crazy. So let's say you would follow that Tony here around and then he stops. So again, you're operating now a drone that has more endurance. Oh shit, what was that? You don't need to be that high because the vehicle Tonys will not notice you that easily. Because they never deploy air guards. I mean, you see some pickups, they have some dude on the rear. which you could basically call air guard, which is supposed to fight drones. But usually the smart Tonys abandon the vehicle immediately. Because they know what is coming. If you saw, if I go with that dive bomb approach with the FPV, so you're supposed to intercept that, yeah? Ah, that is the observation drone. Yeah, usually after the drop, depending if you expect a explosion or whatever, you go up with the drone. So this only makes sense. You drop the ordnance and you go up. Because there's no other reason not to do, yeah? If something explodes violently, it can rise up to your drone and even down your drone. You can go close in order to minimize wind effects and whatever. You drop the grenade and immediately rise up, yeah? That's also a tactic which you see often. I'll show you, it's basically looking like that. You know you have a vehicle which is, of course, not noticing your presence. You go closer to drop. Then you drop and you go immediately up, yeah? In case that dude violently explodes. Yeah? So because drone bombers you want to recover. Only if they're empty. If the drone bomber is empty, you can recover it. You never recover live ordnance.